Day 38, verses 51 to 53, Beyond the Fog of Delusion. Namaste and welcome to Gita 360. Earlier, we saw Krishna speak about how to act without attachment to the outcome. In verses 51 to 53, he turns towards what that way of living gradually does to the mind. The change is slow at first, but profound over the long term. One begins to experience life with greater calmness, and many of the situations that once seemed powerful and strong lose their hold over the mind. The wise, endowed with equanimity of intellect, abandon attachment to the fruits of action and thus are freed from the cycle of life and death. By working in this level of consciousness, they attain the state beyond all suffering. When we stop attaching ourselves to results, we begin to change the way we feel about ourselves. The habit of constantly defining ourselves through what we gain, what we lose, what we achieve, and what we fail to achieve changes into a lens of seeing ourselves as who we actually are. Most of our lives are shaped by this invisible conditioning. We chase certain experiences, avoid others, and build our sense of self around these situations. Slowly, without realizing it, we become tied to patterns of wanting, resisting, celebrating, regretting, and repeating. But when action becomes free from attachment, that cycle begins to break. The mind is no longer caught in the same endless loop of craving and disappointment. It starts experiencing a different kind of freedom, freedom within life. And with that freedom comes peace. The fruit of attachment-free action, then, is a life beyond daily suffering. When your intellect crosses beyond the thicket of delusion, then you will achieve indifference towards what has been heard and what is yet to be heard, scriptural rituals. The imagery in this verse is beautiful, the fog of delusion. Fog does not change reality, it changes how we see reality. It blurs what is clear, it makes us uncertain. It causes hesitation, second guessing, and misjudgment. We live a large part of our life in this fog. We get pulled by opinions, influenced by what others say, confused by endless advice, be it from people, the internet, or even the scriptures. We get caught between competing ideas of what life should look like. The mind keeps searching, hoping the next answer, the next advice, the next tip will finally be what we are looking for. But true transcendental wisdom brings a different kind of vision. The fog ceases to exist. What once seemed complicated looks simpler. What once created confusion no longer carries that power. This does not mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means we stop living in constant inner conflict. We get used to a growing sense of seeing clearly, choosing clearly, and living with greater strength. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas and remains steadfast in the trance of self-realization, you will then have attained the state of perfect yoga or divine consciousness. The final destination of this entire journey is a mind that has stopped wavering, a mind that is so steady that we achieve a state of perfect yoga. We are trained to have a mind like a pendulum. It swings between attraction and fear, hope and disappointment, confidence and doubt. One day it feels certain, the next day uncertain. One moment it feels strong, the next moment fragile. This constant movement drains us more than we realize. But if we follow the path outlined previously, there comes a stage in our life when the mind begins to settle deeply within itself. We no longer need constant external reassurance. The mind no longer reacts to every emotional wave or external stimulus. It becomes rooted. And with that rootedness comes a quiet inner strength, a strength that enables us to withstand the biggest storms of life: birth, death, job loss, failure, separation that enters life. This is yoga in its truest sense, not just practice, but a state of inner union where the mind finally comes home to itself. Most of us know what mental noise feels like: too many opinions, too much comparison, too many voices telling us what success should look like, how life should unfold, what we should become. And these voices don't necessarily belong to people. They could be things we read in books and see in movies or in the world around us. At times, it feels like standing in the middle of a crowded marketplace with everyone shouting directions at once. The louder the noise becomes, the harder it is for us to hear our own inner voice. That is how confusion quietly grows. Not because we lack intelligence, but because we lose connection with our own clarity. The path Krishna describes is not about shutting out the world. It is about becoming inwardly anchored enough that outside noise no longer decides our peace. Then choices become simpler. The mind becomes less cluttered. Life begins to feel less like a constant chase and more like a journey we can walk with awareness. Thought of the day. Real wisdom teaches us to learn to be steady within ourselves. Pause for a moment today and ask yourself, what is creating noise and confusion in my mind right now? What would inner steadiness feel like in my life today? Thank you for joining me on Gita 360. May clarity rise within you, lifting the fog of confusion and helping you walk through life with greater calm, trust, and conviction.